We're going to bring on now President of USA Boxing, Tyson Lee. Mr. Tyson Lee, come on, sir. Welcome to the PorterWay Podcast.
How's it going, champ?
Look at him, looking as dapper as he want to look. Hey, listen, real quick, as I said before, congratulations with everything that's going on with world boxing, helping get boxing or keep boxing in the Olympic Games. I guess maybe first and foremost, we didn't get a lot from Chris. I said I wanted to save a lot to kind of bring it to you, to bring these questions to you, but kind of tell us the whole surgence of world boxing, even as far as the name. We've got World Boxing Council, so kind of, give us the whole background if you can, as quickly as you can on world boxing.
Well, Sean, I'm sure you're familiar with the whole Olympic process when there were a lot of questionable decisions over the years, and one Olympics after another. And then, it just started attracting a lot of visibility with bad decisions. And more than that, bad governance by our international governing body at the time, which was, I think you're familiar with AIBA, and then it was called IBA after that, once it got new leadership. And, I'll tell you, when I was elected in 2019, I went to my first, and it was AIBA at the time, Amateur International Boxing Association. And that was it was a meeting in Panama where we had heard all the rumblings of, and I'll try to wrap it up here in a minute, but it goes that far back with me, where they had a president he was trying, I'll let him remain nameless right now to protect the innocent, but the president at the time was sitting next to a marketing guy who became the president, who was pretty much controlling everything then. And I had heard about that. And, prior to that, USA Boxing, we weren't that active in international stuff. We kind of, AIBA was like a dirty word,
Mm-hmm.
And so we kind of started getting involved, sitting on the front row. And I heard the marketing guy, who I knew was running everything at the time, he said, and I heard him say, we're not worried about the Olympics, we're not worried about that stuff. And I was like, the whole existence is to get our athletes in the Olympic Games,
Mm-hmm.
at this level. And when he said, I had the translator on and it was going, and he said, we're going to be better than the Olympics.
Oh, wow.
And then I was like, what did he say? And I looked, and that was it. And from that point, we kind of knew that they were going in a different direction, or at least trying to change how we had done things. Change is okay, but we still want to be in the Olympic Games.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So we were trying to work on changing some of the governance issues from within. And obviously you get a lot of pushback once they got a new president. And so we supported a candidate against the current president. And this was in Turkey. And the day before the election, they ruled that candidate was ineligible to run.
Wow.
And it gets better. And then, so that was it for that election. We, being the U.S., we appealed it along with that candidate. We helped them appeal it to the Court of Arbitration of Sports, and our attorney represented it, and we won. So we had to have another election. Then
I heard about that.
Yeah, so we had the next Congress in Armenia, which was, right up next to Russia. There's supposed to be a war going on. And I guess they didn't think people were going to show up. And we all showed up strong. And I thought we had a pretty good, chance to in that election. But I think that gave that regime time to go out, and I'm not going to accuse anybody anything, but help change the minds of some voters,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So when we were there, the funny thing that happened, it was a chandelier, probably the 200 feet wide inside the place. It was a very beautiful room. You wouldn't think anything would go wrong. But, people are voting from all different time zones all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
So when the lights came, when they had the screen up and they were showing, this country, this country, this country. So we're counting everybody's counting votes, and then all of a sudden the lights went off for about an hour. And this is what I mean. The lights went off for an hour. This really happened. And then about an hour later, when the lights came on, it was totally new numbers. And
wow.
And they slid an additional agenda item on there that said that we wanted to have a vote not to have an election at all.
Oh no.
This really happened. I mean, it was like Keystone Cops. And we had our international rep there with us, Dragomir from the USOPC, and I told him, I said, you had to actually be here and see this to believe it, right? So when that happened, the group, the Congress, and I stood up then and I said, look, we have to at least have an election.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody needs to win the election. We need to have an election. So, but they voted to not have an election at all. And the current regime stayed in. And I mean, it would have been better. They've been better off. I'd have been okay if they would have voted and we would have lost. But they didn't even take that. They voted to, and I know which nations they bought out for the most part, but I mean, they'll remain nameless too.
Yeah, sure.
A lot of people are trying to do the right thing now.
Yeah.
And so after that, we got up and walked out. And several other nations left with us, and we all went to dinner. And that's when I said, I was like, look, we're going to have to do something different.
Yeah.
I was done with IBA at that point.
Yeah.
I said, USA Boxing's done. Who else is done?
Yeah.
And we were done.
Yeah.
And so then several of us got together. And there's a certain way, a certain time frame we had to do it in order to even have a chance to be successful with world boxing. And when we started the company, because you had to start a company, and it was me, Matt Holt from Great Britain, GB Boxing, and the current world boxing president, Boris Vanderbilt. And we started world boxing. And from that point, now we're up to 84 nations and we've been recognized. And there's a whole bunch of stuff that happened between all of that. But, there was a fight in itself to keep world boxing alive.
Yeah.
But we had to gain the confidence of the IOC. And I think, there's going to be stuff in any organization, but I think we've done enough at this point. And I'm going to take my hat off to our staff that many times wore two hats all the time. They were doing USA boxing stuff, world boxing stuff. Our executive director is actually now serving as the acting secretary general, which is the same as the executive director here for world boxing. And you had Chris on, I think, last week.
Yeah.
Chris Cuglieri and just a number of people have traveled around on the U.S. side to try to make this thing a reality. And we finally got it. We finally got it done. It was a total team effort.
President Lee, tell us some of the hustle and bustle you guys went through to get countries to I guess, essentially participate in world boxing. Some of the countries you've been to, some of that stuff, and then also tell us what you did or had to do in order to get the trust of the IOC, the International Olympic Committee.
Well, I mean, it's pretty much four things. I'll answer your second question first. It's pretty much four things that they have to have confidence in order for you to pull something like this off. First of all, it's never been done before. And the IOC's never kicked anybody. It would take boxing, but they never kicked anybody out of the Olympic family. And then we had to create a new international federation to try to get recognized by them to take the sport back over. But good governance is one. Financial transparency, fairness on the field of play, and third-party oversight. And they were pretty much all missing in the previous organization. I mean, there was an issue with all of them. So, we had to prove that we could do that as an organization. So we had to have a Congress, elect people. I mean, I was going to run for vice president at the beginning. We had a candidate to run against Boris, so we actually had an election. Um, I personally as a founder, didn't want to run for anything. Like I was holding a vice president slot, in the election just in case. And then the day before election, I just backed out, let someone else get it at that time. Because I felt like the most important thing for us to do was to show total change. And we had been all in the papers and all that stuff, and I say papers, internet, I may have papers anymore. Sure. But it was important for me more than anything personally, to work, behind the scenes and support our staff and support the infrastructure of world boxing, which to make sure we did that. And our board of directors did that. Our staff supported it. Our foundations helped support it financially to get us kicked off, with some of the largest contributions. So, like I said, it was definitely a total team effort. So some of the countries, man, I should have had my passport sitting up here. More than I thought I would ever go to in my life. We just got back from our first Pan American Congress, where we elected a president for the Americas.
Nice.
Elise Signoli, she's out of New York.
Wow.
And she's an American, so it's really great. And she's got, I think, dual citizenship, but she's going to do great for that organization.
Yeah.
And she'll have our support there.
Congratulations to her. Yeah.
So that was I think that was a good move. And then we other countries before that, I was introducing some to Zone 6 of Malawi, Africa, where they had South Africa, Zimbabwe, Angola, Malawi. Just that very squared away part of Africa. I was there about 3 weeks ago with Chris, as a matter of fact.
Right.
And I think Chris and I are the African guys because we were in Dakar together too.
Yeah.
So we took care of West Africa and East Africa. And just, you name it. I told you, Armenia, Turkey. Oh God, I'm Chile, Ecuador. I'm Brazil. I'm going to Brazil Wednesday for our first, since we've been recognized, our first boxing World Cup there. So
wow.
So and Team USA is there too. So
beautiful.
That should
awesome.
be a very good,
beautiful,
very good event. So that's just to name a few countries.
Listen, we'll wrap this up soon, but
because we can really talk about this, like
we can, and we will
a whole episode. Yeah,
we're just gonna do a Zoom recording interview with you. We'll do a whole hour with you and cover this for anybody who wants to continue to follow this this new venture that Olympic boxing, world boxing is on. But before we get you out of here, you have anything for him?
Man, so much, but we'll have to probably save it for another day. No, just Tyson, man. Like I said to Chris last week, thank you for all you do for USA Boxing. This is the lifeblood of our American talent. It's the irony's not lost on me that your name is Tyson. You're our Tyson outside the ring fighting these battles, for USA Boxing. But I really hope people grasp the significance of everything Tyson talked about. It's even a microcosm of they always say boxing is the most real microcosm of our world than any other sport. And, politically, that everything he laid out touches on deeper political ties.
Right.
But anyways, man, God bless you, Tyson. And, we hope the infrastructure of USA Boxing can improve so we can get back to winning gold medals on the regular, and turning those guys out into the pros so that me and Sean can talk about them on the show.
There it is.
And that's totally the focus, guys. Thanks so much for having me today. And that is the focus for 2028 because we're in LA and I'm like, hey, we gotta bring home some iron. We had some close calls. We got one medal this last Olympics. And really we underachieved. So but with everything going on, everybody kind of gets a pass for split focus and keeping us in the Olympics to begin with, and having a lead in that. But we want to bring home some medals for sure at LA 2028.